Napoleon. This is uh, an Apple Plus film. It's out there for consideration for the Academy Awards. And it's directed by Ridley Scott. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Vanessa Kirby, Tahar Rahim, uh, and Rupert Everett. I'll go with that. There you go. I was surprised I didn't know Rupert Everett. I knew the first three were in this, but I didn't know Rupert was in this. So it's obviously about Napoleon the pig from Animal Farm, voiced by Joaquin Phoenix. Uh, it's an alternative story. Um, no, it's about Napoleon Bonaparte. I just just wanted to see if anybody would believe me on Animal Farm. Um, it's Apple, so of course it has audio description. Um, and you, this is a film. This is a film that hasn't been received quite the way I think people want it to. Um, it's such a shame. Ridley Scott has never won a Best Director trophy before. He's going to go his entire career. Dude is like 86. Let's be honest, Gladiator 2 is not going to win him Best Director. It's just not. He largely is being forgotten about by the Academy Awards, and it's such a shame because if you could reach back, you have to remember this is the dude that directed Alien. You know what I'm saying? So to say that that he doesn't deserve an Oscar is offensive. I'm offended on his behalf. This man has directed some tremendous epics. Yes, he's directed some films that haven't worked out for him. He's not, a absolute success story pound for pound. But really, no director is. Some directors have films that are just like, that was all right. You know, that wasn't great. Even Nolan hit that mark, I think, more recently with Tenet. I think Tenet was that film for him. I think Tenet was the film where it was a big idea. He went for it and it didn't quite happen. There were a lot of people, Damien Chazelle, people thought he was going to be one of those like perfect filmmakers. And then Babylon became this like divisive film for him. So it's really hard to hit a home run after home run after home run after home run after home run. If you think Steven Spielberg doesn't have them, we can debate which films on his resume are just okay. They're just fine because he has them. We just don't like to talk about them because we like to believe that Steven Spielberg is GOAT, which he probably is still, even with a couple of films. He just directs a lot of films. Um, but I really wish that this had been good for Ridley Scott and that he had been able to get in the race. Not that Joaquin Phoenix needs to be in the best actor race. Our best actor race is already tight this year. And Vanessa Kirby has been nominated once before, so there's less of a rush to nominate her again for Napoleon. Tahar Rahim, you know, he was probably closer for the Mauritanian. And here he just doesn't have as much to do. Rupert Everett would be a nice nomination because I don't think he's ever been nominated. Um, but uh, it's not going to happen for this. This is just not the film. Did I like it? I didn't hate it. That's the truth. The truth is I didn't hate it, but the last film that I really loved of Ridley Scott's was The Last Duel. I'm one of the people who absolutely loved The Last Duel. I did see a couple critics who we were still like, we're on this like lifeboat by ourselves. We're like the only people who loved The Last Duel that year. And beating our chests and being like, this film is great, guys. Please watch it. I was really disappointed at the Razzie nomination for Affleck because I thought he did fine. And perhaps that's why we've decided to make Napoleon how we decided to make it, which is even weirder. We made it weird now. It's weird. Instead of allowing actors to attempt accents because therefore they might be made fun of. Casting is everything, I have to say. And it's not that I have a problem with Joaquin. It's the fact he's the only person in this film that doesn't have an accent. He just walks around with his American accent. And this is one of those things where we do this a lot now, where we have British people and they just play whatever European we need them to play. And they speak with their British accent, whether it's appropriate or not, whether they're Russian, German, French, Spanish, Italian. It doesn't really matter. They're British, so they're from Europe. They're from Europe, so it must be historically accurate. Um, it was kind of weird watching the entirety of Chernobyl with all these British actors playing Russians, for example. But that's just how the series is set up, and it allows it to be made for an English speaking audience. I get it, but be consistent, because it's really weird when Joaquin Phoenix just walks in and he's just American, and he's just doing an American thing and living his best life. You know, he doesn't even try an accent here. He tried an accent in Gladiator. Here, I think this is really just Joaquin just reading lines. Just so like he was told not to do. No, Joaquin, we don't want you to do an accent. We told Ben Affleck to do one, and it didn't work out for him. So we're just gonna let people speak as they speak, and hopefully people will just interpret the film as they interpret it. I would agree with that thought if it was consistent across the board. It's now weirder that this is, because the BAFTAs decided to nominate this as Best British Film, and it's got clearly a non-British lead. So I'm kind of wondering how it got there, because it doesn't take place in Britain. It's about France. It's about a France military leader, historically French. So I have like so many questions about that, but there are people who are like, "Oh, it's violent." Yeah, it's violent. Have you seen a Ridley Scott movie? Did you see Alien? A chest burst, like the chest burst open and an alien popped out. I know it's a spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen Alien, but if you haven't seen Alien by this point, I feel like it's a choice. You know, either that or else you're a tiny child that stumbled onto my channel and decided that movie reviews are going to be a part of your life, in which case I'm sorry to the 5-year-old that for some reason came here instead of watching Roblox. But the rest of you, yeah, you've known about Alien, and it kind of everybody knows about Alien, because even if you don't know about that, it's been parodied in other movies like Spaceballs. So it's kind of like the worst kept secret in terms of spoilers. Yeah. So and of course, like in every other film, like in Gladiator, it's this dude. Yeah, Ridley Scott's films are violent. They just are. Generally, he does not shy away from them. Are they all violent? No. What's House? You're right. House of Gucci was not like over the top violent. So no, but this is a sword and sandals type of film. And when you look at previous films like this that he's done, like Kingdom of Heaven and Gladiator, yeah, he won't shy away from it. So people are like, well, I've never quite seen a cannonball destroy like that before, and it's like, it's cool. I mean, it's cool that he can do that. It's where technology is going. It's what we're able to do now with visual effects, with cameras. Sort of like Michael Bay when he when he found drones in ambulance, and he was like, it's like a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my god, you mean I can fly under the car? Yes, yes you can. Yeah, it's just Ridley doing something cool and something different, because if he just kept doing the same old, it's, he's not really challenging himself. He's 86. I think that's his age. I'm pretty certain. 84, 86, something like that. And yeah, he's got to find stuff that he wants to challenge himself with. And hopefully find new ways of fulfilling himself as a human being, and not just directing the same old, same old. Um, Plus, now that he's getting like these mixed receptions from his audiences, it's like he's trying to figure out what it is that they want from him. We absolutely should have loved The Last Duel a lot more than we did. House of Gucci should have gotten at least a little bit more Oscar love than it did. Napoleon, well, it's not Killers of the Flower Moon's length. That's one thing. It's about the same length, I think, as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was, or Mission Impossible, um, Dead Reckoning Part One. I mean, there are other films. John Wick was longer than this. Oppenheimer's longer than this. So for people who are like, it's long, I think it's about the same length of Society of the Snow if you sit through the credits. I think it's like 2 hours and 36 minutes long, which is, I get it. I mean, you have to make sure you allot the time, but it's not unwatchably long. Um, it's not all violent either, by the way. It's a lot of it is politics and walking back and forth, and him arguing with people about things, and his lust for women, and his lust for Josephine, played by Vanessa Kirby, trying to conceive a child. It really encompasses the entirety of his life. It's not just battle scene, 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 battle scene. That's not what this is. It just has battle scenes that are impressive. I was most impressed by the score, probably than anything else in this film. I actually really enjoyed the score. Um, I don't know that it's the most memorable score, but I was really intrigued by it. I was really intrigued by the percentage of, I was like, is this all original, or are they incorporating classical works? There are parts of this film that feel almost slightly revisionist in the way that Sofia Coppola, her take on Marie Antoinette, is, or perhaps like The Great, where it feels like a little like it's trying to be a little off kilter for history. And the film puts these like sort of like string quartetish orchestral arrangements in that feel very they're interesting in how they're used, and I don't recognize them, and I hope that they're all part of the original composition of the score, because I thought it just brought out a different depth. It was like doing something totally different. It's like you're hearing the Star Wars score, and then you just hear something almost like a score was written by somebody else, and it just drops in. If like Vader's theme was, I don't know, written by Nine Inch Nails, it'd be like, it would have been totally different, right, than what John Williams wrote. So it has that surprise to it, and that's kind of what I liked about it. I like that it didn't just do sort of like the same thing and find the rise and the fall, and it didn't just feel like music that was written and we're writing music for this film. It felt like somebody was taking risks and making choices, and I like I said, I just hope it's all original, because it'll be in my top 10 for scores of the year. That's at least what I can say. The Dolby was a bit much at points. There's a scene where, I don't know, it sounded like he was going through a locking mechanism. Like he was in one scene with it's where he's, I forget what he was doing, but there's a scene where a boy comes in to talk to Napoleon, and the Dolby in that scene was so profound. It was so obviously Dolby, and I like to not be able to hear the Dolby ADR. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that they went back and they touched up the sound effects. It was not mixed in a way that I would have preferred, because it felt like I could kind of see the people in the Dolby room trying to figure out which instrument makes that sound, and I was more interested in how they were doing that. It was just really that one scene that just kind of stood out to me, where the Dolby felt like it was done in post. Um, and Dolby is supposed to feel seamless in many ways. You're not supposed to think about the hooves on the ground, or the slamming of a door, or the footsteps, or the anything like that. but this was so just right there. I was like, whoa, all right, Dolby. We're doing some post sound effects here. Got it. I'm I hear you. Um, I think it works. I think this film mostly works as a biopic for Napoleon. Some people are like, well, it's really about Napoleon and Josephine. I don't know that it is. It kind of is. She's a huge part of his life. I think it's more about Napoleon. It's titled Napoleon. Joaquin Phoenix is in significantly more of the film, which is why Vanessa Kirby's For Your Consideration campaign is in supporting actress, because this is not Maestro. I just, I don't know. It's always fun. You know, there's that like coming out of film on opening weekend and like joining in the rest of the critics at the beginning, right? And we just all start. And then there's the other part where it's like I've heard what everybody else has to say, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. I think some of the stuff that I've heard I just don't think is valid. I just disagree. This doesn't feel anything, especially when you watch Maestro. It's like, well, that's a film that balances the relationship a little bit more. It feels less like a Leonard Bernstein biopic. Um, and like it doesn't need to hit all the heavy points in his life. He's not constantly running into all of the famous celebrities that he's worked with over the course of his career. We're not celebrating all of his triumphs. He's not constantly running up on the stage at awards ceremonies and stuff like, it's just um there are a lot of moments that he's just there with Felicia. And here, we follow Napoleon. We don't really follow Josephine on her journeys. He's not constantly with Josephine, and that's just not the story. So, um, it does encompass pretty much broadly his life. So, you're missing like childhood, like like little baby Napoleon. There isn't like a scene with like the mother cradling Napoleon in a crib and being like, one day, my son, you'll grow up and do something very special. It doesn't start there. Other than that, it's basically his whole life. um, it's not my favorite film of the year. It's also definitely not the worst film of the year. It's a film that I think people will like watching. I don't think it's a film that's going to get a lot of awards this season. And that's pretty much it. It's really all I got. Audio description, again, turn that on. I already mentioned battle sequences. Absolutely, there are lots of battle sequences in this film. A lot of period costumes, because this film doesn't take place today. So you want to make sure that you get an idea of the costumes in France and I guess conceptually the violence and the gore. Yes, things happen to animals in this film, but I don't think they actually happened to animals. So, uh, again, there's a lot we can do with movie magic. So, I've heard lots of people mention that and give that warning. So I will once again give that warning that many a critic before me has given. Animals in this film do not fare well. So, it's 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 fine. It's not my favorite thing of the year, but I liked it. I wish in many ways it wasn't Joaquin, but Joaquin, he does not phone this in. He feels so odd in this role. And I've heard people are like, well, he feels too modern, blah, 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 blah. No, it's because he's the only person in the film without an accent. Even Tahar Rahim, who doesn't have like quite the same British accent, he's playing somebody from a different country. So it's like when you hear his accent switched up, you notice because of that. Literally, this feels like like Napoleon is from America, sailed to Paris, and then took over France. You know, it feels like what we're trying to do here, because we've gone out of our way to cast a whole bunch of people who keep speaking in accents, and there's no one to match Joaquin in this film who doesn't have one. We didn't bring over Matthew McConaughey to just throw people off and be like, whoa, you know. At least with the last duel, you had a trifecta of people who didn't really belong there. You had Damon, Driver, and Affleck, who were all trying to be like, what accent are we doing? You know, like what is this? Um, but here it's just Joaquin Phoenix, and it just stands out. I think it's a good performance. And if we had gone the other way with the casting, instead of casting British people, if we had cast a whole bunch of American actors doing this, I don't think people would notice. You know, it's the same. Like we didn't have this problem with Russell Crowe, right? He's not doing a British accent in Gladiator, not really. But he's not doing his Australian accent. He's kind of doing this like weird sort of like neutral accent. Um, it's not really anything. Uh, but it didn't feel weird because we didn't. I don't really know what kind of accent Joaquin was doing and some of the other people. So it was a little bit more of a mixed bag. Connie Nielsen, for example, um, coming in with her accent, and Cameron forgot his last name, the little boy. So the accents were kind of different, and then Djimon Hounsou comes in with African accent, and just it was a little bit here. It's just it feels like it's 95% one thing, a dash of Tahir, and then Joaquin is the only American. It's very odd, but I do think it's a good performance from him. I don't have a problem with his performance. I just think he's oddly put in this position by a casting department that probably should have chosen somebody else. Anyway, so, or chosen other people for the other roles. There's a thought. Go the other way with it. Anyway, whatever. Ridley Scott in accents, right? This is the problem with Jared Leto in House of Gucci. Probably one of the reasons that film didn't get as many nominations, although did he get a Golden Globe nomination for his atrocious accent? I think he did. That's it. I'll tap out now. I'm gonna give Napoleon a B. In general, I was pretty happy with it. I'm intrigued by the fact that I hear there's a 4-hour cut of this. Then we may have a conversation about, well, the movie might be too long. I'm intrigued as to how there's an hour and a half more. Like, what is it? Why? Like, what? I feel like you covered everything, really. I don't know why you would want to make the film longer, but hey, you know, a lot of people love the Kingdom of Heaven director's cut. So I'll probably watch it if Apple releases a director's cut with audio description. So anyway, that's it. Please click that subscribe button so I can continue to talk about films with audio description. I need more people so that we can get audio description on more films. You can go to my website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on X, Twitter, Instagram at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.